It was supposed to be the end of the storm. But instead of peace, Johnny Depp found something even more painful than lawsuits, headlines, or even heartbreak. In a raw and revealing new interview, Depp didn't just talk about the past, he exposed it. And at the center of it all wasn't just Amber Heard or the media, it was the people closest to him, the ones who vanished when the cameras turned and who stayed silent when the world turned its back on him. Depp didn't name names, but the message was loud and clear. Hollywood doesn't forgive, it forgets. According to Depp, the real gut punch wasn't the defamation trial or the global circus that came with it. It was the discovery that many of his so-called friends had been playing a role all along. He described them as fake, as people who smiled on red carpets and ghosted him in the courtroom. And while he avoided pointing fingers directly, the internet didn't hesitate. Speculation has swirled non-stop about which stars kept their distance and which ones stayed quiet when it mattered most. People are naming names, from co-stars to former confidants, and the list is growing. What's even more striking is how Depp described the betrayal. It wasn't just professional, it was personal. He explained how certain people he had supported in their darkest moments never returned the favor. And when things got tough, they disappeared. He said, "You find out who's real when your world falls apart." For someone who spent decades building relationships in an industry built on image, that hit deeper than any legal blow. But Johnny wasn't just venting, he was reflecting. He's no longer the soft-spoken heartthrob from Edward Scissorhands, nor the quirky pirate everyone wanted to be friends with. He's a man who's been broken, rebuilt, and burned by the spotlight. And for the first time in a long time, he's not holding anything back. What's interesting is how strategic Depp has become in his post-trial interviews. He doesn't over-explain. He hints, he plants ideas, and then lets the public fill in the blanks. It's smart, and it's effective, because now everyone wants to know, who did Johnny mean? Was it a co-star from his Pirates days, a director he once called a brother, or maybe even one of the producers who once promised him loyalty? Whatever the case, he's not ready to forgive, and he's definitely not ready to forget. But this goes far beyond gossip. Depp's interview revealed something deeper, a man who was forced to watch his life be turned into a global spectacle, with millions of people picking sides while the industry that once celebrated him suddenly stepped back. It wasn't just Amber Heard who took him to court, it was public opinion, corporate interests, and a very powerful media machine. And yet, somehow, he survived it. He admits the trial took a toll, but not in the way you might expect. Depp described the televised hearings as a soap opera that turned his private trauma into global entertainment. And while many saw the verdict as his comeback moment, Depp didn't quite celebrate. Instead, he used the moment to go quiet, to regroup, to step back from the world and decide who he actually wanted in his corner. His inner circle, once full of industry power players, is now smaller, tighter, and a lot more cautious. He's built new walls around his life and made it clear no one gets through unless they've proven they belong. And honestly, after everything he's been through, who can blame him? But just as the interview pulled back the curtain on his inner world, it also reopened old wounds. Because no matter how far he tries to move forward, the shadow of the trial still looms over everything. And that trial, it wasn't just about Amber Heard. Because what really shook Johnny Depp wasn't what was said in court. It was how his pain was packaged into primetime drama. And when he finally spoke about that experience, his words hit harder than any headline. Imagine watching your most personal, painful moments being turned into a global event, streamed, clipped, and turned into memes overnight. That's what Johnny Depp lived through. In his words, the defamation trial wasn't just a courtroom battle, it was a soap opera, one where every tear, every glance, every whispered exchange was dissected by millions. And while the verdict may have leaned in his favor, the emotional cost was far greater than most people realized. In the new interview, Depp didn't sugarcoat it. He admitted that watching his life unfold on television was one of the most surreal experiences he's ever had. Cameras zoomed in not just on legal arguments, but on his facial expressions, his posture, his reactions to Amber Heard's testimony. Even the moments of silence were turned into viral sound bites. It wasn't just justice, it was entertainment. And for Depp, that realization hit harder than any accusation. He reflected on how the media frenzy surrounding the trial distorted everything. In his eyes, truth became secondary to performance. It didn't matter what was actually said in court. What mattered was how people felt about what they saw. The trial became theater, and he was the unwilling lead actor. He even compared it to a live-action reality show, only he never signed up for the role. And while fans flooded TikTok and YouTube with edits, parodies, and reaction videos, Depp said he mostly stayed offline. He didn't want to see himself turned into a meme. He didn't want to scroll through clips of people reenacting his trauma or debating his facial expressions like it was a game. He was trying to heal, while the internet was trying to go viral. Still, what shook him most wasn't the noise. It was the silence from those he expected to stand by him. Throughout the trial, there were stars who said nothing, directors he'd worked with for decades who avoided making a statement, industry friends who were quick to praise him on red carpets but went radio silent when he needed support. That silence, he said, echoed louder than the crowds outside the courthouse. But to understand how much this all meant, we need to rewind. Because the Depp-Heard legal saga didn't start in 2022. It began years earlier, and its twists and turns were more tangled than most people remember. Back in 2018, Amber Heard published an op-ed in the Washington Post. She never mentioned Johnny by name, but the implication was clear. She positioned herself as a survivor of domestic abuse, and the timing lined up directly with the end of her relationship with Depp. The article lit a match. And soon, Depp's entire world caught fire. That op-ed led to a wave of professional consequences. Depp claimed he was dropped from major film franchises, including Pirates of the Caribbean, without due process. Studios were afraid of the backlash. Headlines ran wild. And for the first time in decades, Depp's future in Hollywood looked uncertain. But before the US trial made global headlines, Depp had already been through a brutal court case in the UK. In 2020, he sued the Sun newspaper for calling him a wife-beater. That trial ended in a loss for Depp, with the judge ruling that 12 of the 14 alleged incidents had been proven to the civil standard. It was a devastating blow, not just legally, but publicly. For many, it felt like the final nail in his career's coffin. Still, Depp wasn't done fighting. He filed the now infamous defamation suit against Heard in Virginia, seeking $50 million in damages. Heard countered with her own $100 million claim. And by 2022, the courtroom became the most watched show on earth. Every day, new clips went viral. Every testimony sparked debates. Experts weighed in, fans chose sides, and social media lit up with theories. When the verdict finally dropped, it was clear. The jury believed Depp's story more than Heard's. He was awarded $10 million in compensatory damages, plus $5 million in punitive damages, though that was reduced due to Virginia law. Heard won a small counterclaim, $2 million, but the public saw it as a landslide victory for Depp. And yet, Depp didn't gloat. He didn't celebrate on camera. In fact, he left the country shortly after the trial ended. He said he needed space to breathe, to think, to remember who he was before all of this began. Because winning in court didn't erase the damage. It didn't fix the friendships he lost. It didn't silence the rumors or undo the years of humiliation. What it did, though, was give him a fresh start. And with that new beginning, Johnny Depp didn't return to the Hollywood spotlight. He rebuilt his own version of it. But this time, he made sure the rules were his. After the dust settled, Johnny Depp didn't race back to the big screen. He didn't rush into interviews or try to reclaim his old Hollywood throne. Instead, he did something that surprised everyone. He chose silence. No grand return, no red carpet tour. Just a quiet retreat into art, music, and a very intentional kind of healing. For a man who had spent decades in front of the camera, this move said everything. But when he finally did reemerge, it wasn't through a blockbuster sequel or some flashy PR campaign. It was through Jean du Barry, a French-language period drama that premiered at Cannes. The film wasn't a massive studio production. It wasn't meant to rake in millions. It was a statement, a message to the industry. Johnny Depp doesn't need Hollywood's permission anymore. At Cannes, he received a standing ovation that lasted nearly 7 minutes. Cameras caught his eyes welling with emotion. This wasn't just about a movie, it was about survival. The applause wasn't for a performance. It was for resilience. After years of being painted as unstable, unhireable, and even dangerous, Depp stood tall in front of one of the most critical audiences in the world, and they welcomed him back. He later described the experience as moving, but didn't dwell on it. That's been the pattern ever since. No theatrics, no loud declarations, just carefully chosen projects, slow rebuilding, and zero interest in pandering to the industry that nearly abandoned him. His upcoming directorial film Maudit, based on the life of artist Amedeo Modigliani, is another example. It's raw, personal, and miles away from the big-budget studio fare he was once known for. But this new Depp isn't bitter. He's cautious. He's spoken about learning not to carry baggage from the past, about moving forward without dragging every scar behind him. He still tours with his band, Hollywood Vampires. He paints. He surrounds himself with a smaller, tighter circle of trusted people. And most importantly, he's no longer chasing fame. If anything, he's walking away from it, slowly but deliberately. Still, that doesn't mean everyone's ready to forgive and forget. Because with every step forward comes a new wave of backlash. Even as Johnny Depp rebuilds, whispers continue. Not everyone is cheering him on. For some, his comeback feels premature. Others claim the industry is sending a dangerous message by welcoming him back at all. Critics have pointed to the complexity of the trial, the divided opinions, and the fact that public sympathy doesn't necessarily equal innocence. And in Hollywood, image is everything. There are rumors that some studios still see Depp as high risk, that despite his legal win, the controversy hasn't faded, and some execs would rather avoid the fire altogether. A few directors who previously expressed admiration have reportedly distanced themselves. Some insiders even suggest that Depp's return is more about European acceptance than a true Hollywood redemption. At the same time, fans have drawn their own battle lines. For every person celebrating his return, there's another questioning it. Social media remains split, half adoring him as a misunderstood icon, the other half accusing him of manipulation, charm, and gaslighting. And though Amber Heard has largely stayed out of the spotlight since the trial, her supporters remain vocal. They argue that public opinion doesn't erase personal pain, and that Depp's massive online fanbase helped sway a narrative that should have remained in the courtroom. Then, there's the ongoing speculation about what really happened behind the scenes. Some say Depp's fake friends weren't just actors or producers. They may have been part of PR teams, legal advisors, or even mutual acquaintances who fed the media fire. The betrayal, it seems, ran deeper than anyone outside his circle knew. And yet, through it all, Depp has remained consistent. He doesn't lash out publicly. He doesn't name names, but he doesn't forgive easily either. He's changed, hardened maybe, but also sharper, more selective, more focused, and while the headlines may have calmed down, the tension underneath it all remains thick. What's clear is this: Johnny Depp's journey isn't just about survival, it's about control. After being dragged through one of the most public personal meltdowns in recent celebrity history, he's finally the one writing the next chapter. And as that chapter begins, one question remains: what's Johnny really planning next? Because if history's any clue, he's not done surprising anyone just yet. Johnny Depp has never followed the rules. Not in his career, not in his personal life, and certainly not now. After surviving one of the most brutal character assassinations in recent Hollywood memory, he's not just rebuilding, he's reinventing. And while his fans are thrilled to see him back, the question everyone's asking now is, what is he planning next? The answer? No one really knows. And that's exactly how Depp likes it. He's always been unpredictable, drawn to roles and projects that make no commercial sense, but hold deep emotional meaning. His return to acting with Jean DeBarry wasn't about money or box office, it was about reclaiming his voice. And his decision to direct Maudit, a film about a misunderstood artist persecuted in his time, feels like a mirror to his own life. But it's not just the big screen that's calling him back. Behind the scenes, Depp is quietly expanding his creative empire. He's investing in smaller projects, including art exhibitions and independent music collaborations. There's also buzz, though unconfirmed, about a documentary series that would cover his experience during the trial, offering his side of the story in long form. If true, it could be explosive, not because of what it says outright, but because of what it chooses to leave implied. Then there's the big elephant in the room: Pirates of the Caribbean. For years, fans have begged for his return as Captain Jack Sparrow, and for just as long, Disney has tiptoed around the possibility. Depp has been vague. Some say diplomatically non-committal, others say flat-out uninterested. In interviews, he's mentioned that some things can't be undone, but he's also hinted that if respect and creative control were restored, he might consider it. That's not a no. That's a challenge. Meanwhile, other studios have taken notice. European filmmakers, in particular, have been more welcoming. They see Depp not as a liability, but as a survivor, someone who's lived through the fire and come out stronger. Directors known for gritty, emotional dramas are reportedly reaching out, offering roles that are darker, more introspective, and far removed from the commercial spectacle that once defined his brand. But perhaps most telling is Depp's own attitude. In his latest interviews, he doesn't sound like someone hungry for fame. He sounds like someone protecting peace. Someone who's seen the worst of what the industry can do and wants no part of its false promises. For the first time in years, Johnny Depp has full control over his image, his voice, and his choices. And he's not letting go of that control anytime soon. Still, the shadow of the past lingers. Amber Heard may be out of the spotlight for now, but the narrative surrounding their toxic relationship continues to simmer online. TikTok theories, old clips, courtroom edits, it's all still out there. And while Depp rarely engages directly, the attention hasn't gone away. If anything, it's just evolved. Quieter maybe, but no less intense. As for his former friends, the ones he called out in his latest interview, the silence has been deafening. No public apologies, no clarifications, no attempts at reconciliation. And that might be the most powerful statement of all. Depp didn't need to name them. They outed themselves through their absence. What happens next may not be loud or public or even immediate, but make no mistake, Johnny Depp is planning something. Whether it's on a canvas, a movie set, a music studio, or a courtroom, he's not done speaking. He's just changed the language. When history looks back on Johnny Depp, it won't just see a heartthrob or a pirate. It will see a man who fell from grace, was ripped apart by headlines, and chose to rise, not through revenge, but through reinvention. The trial may be over. The cameras may have moved on, but the scars remain. And so does the story. And what Depp's doing now isn't just a comeback, it's a rewrite, one where he's finally the author. In a world obsessed with scandal, Johnny Depp chose silence. In an industry fueled by fakery, he called out betrayal. And in the aftermath of one of Hollywood's biggest media storms, he didn't just survive, he changed the game. The fake friends, the public drama, the courtroom battles, they're part of his legacy now. But they don't define it. What defines Johnny Depp is what he does next. And if his past has taught us anything, it's this. Whatever he's about to do, no one sees it coming. If this shocked you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more untold truths and hidden stories, because what's next might just blow everything wide open. Don't miss it.